I'm Lavonne and welcome back to my YouTube channel. We have been talking all about C-sections this month. For those of you that are pregnant, the goal is actually to avoid a C-section if you can. Ultimately, we want safe mom, safe baby, but in general, C-sections should be avoided if you are a low-risk mama. I'm gonna get into all of this. There are some ways for you to prevent a C-section, and so today I'm gonna give you my top 10 tips, which actually it's like 13. I'm gonna throw in some extra bonus ones there, but 10 sounded better. 10 tips on how to avoid a C-section. But before I do that, don't forget to subscribe down below so that you never miss a video, and then let's get started. My hair looks just like my shirt. It's a little lion-esque today. That's not a lion, it's a cheetah. Is that a cheetah? I had said in my video all about C-sections that about 1 in 3 women in the US end up having a C-section. Cesarean birth, it is a birth. My job is to help set you up for that vaginal delivery and be able to control what you can control so that we can let go of the rest. How many times have you heard me say this? The goal is to avoid a C-section because if you are a low-risk mama with no other complications, it's just a normal pregnancy like a lot of women have, then your chances of complications and of death go down by avoiding a C-section. It is important for you to have the information so that you can make an informed choice to have that vaginal delivery, to avoid possible other complications. Particularly with the C-section, it's complications in future pregnancies that we also care about. My goal today is to give you some tips, some things that you maybe can control, maybe some things that like you should be aware of to help you strategize in your birth with your care provider that will help you to hopefully avoid a C-section. Where do all of these recommendations come from? Most of them, I would say, are things that I've been saying because I just know from practice and from the reading and the experience that I've done. But I did pull out the ACOG article. So I've mentioned this before, but ACOG is the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, the governing board that helps to advise and recommend certain like protocols and ways that your OBGYN or your doctor practices. Even midwives refer to ACOG. ACOG comes out with these consensus statements and these practice bulletins where they're saying we are recommending based on the research certain things. The article I'm referencing is ACOG's Obstetric Care Consensus. It's safe prevention of the primary cesarean delivery. So by primary, I mean you haven't had a C-section before. It's your first C-section. Most of the time that means that you are a first-time mom. I'm gonna try to interpret this article for you, make it super simple for you to understand, show you what you can control, what you can't control, and then anything else that comes up along the way. The first important thing that you can be doing right now in your pregnancy is, super fun, control your weight. This can be a sensitive topic, I get it. It is important for you to understand that women who gain excessive weight, meaning more than what they recommend, and by recommend, I mean you gain within that range of weight based on your original BMI or your body mass index, which is starting out before pregnancy. The way that you're gonna help control your weight, guys, is to exercise, staying active, and if you're not active, doing something, okay? You're not like starting to do CrossFit or run a marathon now that you're pregnant or anything. We're talking walk around the block, do something active every day if possible, and at minimum 3 to 4 times a week. And that will help control your weight gain. The other thing is, guys, you really only need about 300 extra calories when you're pregnant. I know you see in the movies that like, now I can eat whatever I want, I have like tubs of ice cream and pickles, and that's not really the recommendation. Quick rule of thumb is eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. Healthy nutrients are also very important. Think about the types of calories you're putting in your body. It's not so much just the calories in general, but it's, am I eating a bunch of processed white bread or am I eating whole grain bread? Like those are gonna be better calories for you, fill you up, and actually give your body the fuel that it needs to build a healthy baby, to build healthy tissues and prepare you for your labor and birth. Enough about that, that's like a whole nother video, and now I can already tell this is gonna be a long one. Number 2, higher continuous labor support. Studies have proven that to have continuous labor support, which is likely a doula, so somebody that is trained in labor and birth, somebody that has been there before, they have some tools and resources for you to be there from start to finish in your birth to help you know what your options are, to keep you calm, keep your psyche or your mind in line, and help you to cope with whatever may come your way is going to help decrease your risk for cesarean birth. I feel like I talk a lot about that which I can't help myself because I believe in it so much that that's what I do. Hire a doula. If you can't afford a doula, there's volunteer doulas a lot of places. There are low cost doulas a lot of places. There's doulas in training. Have somebody so that you never feel alone. You have those resources, and ultimately it does, it's proven to lower your risk for C-section. Number 3 is wait to go to the hospital until it is actually time to go to the hospital. This is where, guys, you gotta take a childbirth class to understand what's the process, how does labor build, how does it grow, and how does it come to the point where it's time to go to the hospital. Now, mind you, I do have a video on this, so I'll link it above. Disclaimer, just because I get so many comments about this, if you feel like you need to go, then go to the hospital. I'm not telling you not to go to the hospital. So more often than not, people are coming to the hospital way too early. The goal would be that for early labor, that happens at home. So long as your doctor says that that's safe, great question for your doctor or midwife, let your body decide that it's actually going to move forward and deliver you, or like really have contractions that change your cervix. The ultimate goal would be to arrive in active labor. You're less likely of having a C-section, and you're also less likely of avoiding medical interventions that you could potentially otherwise avoid. You're letting your body do it on its own and leaving it ample amount of time to get into that active labor phase. Wait at home, labor at home. Take a childbirth class so that you understand the whole process and you can confidently be at home, having contractions, do your thing, take your time, and then feel really confident that you know, yep, it's time to go to the hospital. You get to the hospital, you're in active labor, your body continues to take off, and then you have your baby. Pretty simple, right? At the same time, while you're in labor, move around. When you're listening to your body, you naturally are going to rock, you're gonna sway, you're gonna move with your sensations. Listen to your body and move around. Change positions frequently. If you're actually in labor, go walking. That helps to keep your contractions coming. It helps to get the baby in the right position. When you're like this, the baby kind of just stays there and is like, oh, okay, and then you have contractions and it's like this. But what if baby needs to tuck their head? Or what if baby needs to rotate a little bit? That you're encouraging and pushing to, as you move, you're rotating the head back and forth, or encouraging the baby to get in that right position, which is gonna speed up your labor, and there's higher chance of your baby fitting through your pelvis and sneaking on its way out, and decrease your chance of what we call a labor dystocia, which is where your cervix just doesn't dilate. And that's actually one of the #1 reasons why first-time moms end up with a C-section, because their cervix just didn't dilate or their baby doesn't come down. Now, let's say you get to the hospital and you get an epidural. The goal would be, once you have an epidural, you are changing positions super frequently, okay? And by super frequently, I mean at least every hour, ideally every 30 minutes to an hour. Movement, to me as a doula, is one of the most important tips I can give you, and one of the most important things that I can help you control when I'm with my clients in labor. So move around a lot. That's probably my #1 tip, honestly, that you can control. Not to say that they can be rated, because they all are important. Number 5 is semi-controversial. I really struggled actually with even including this one, because I feel like I have my own personal opinions about it, which I'm not entirely sure if I will share or not, but I'm here to just share the straight up research with you. Number 5 is regarding induction of labor. And so the recommendation per ACOG is to induce at 41 weeks. Now, I've always said, when you wait for labor for a first-time mom, you can expect to go into labor spontaneously or naturally at about 41 weeks and 3 days on average. So that's where I get a little confused by the data, but the data says that at 41 weeks, if you were induced, your chance of vaginal delivery does increase despite what your Bishop score is. And go to my induction videos to understand what that is. It also mentions in this article that once you hit 42 weeks, there is no benefit for you to staying pregnant. The studies at 42 weeks are super duper clear that the risk of perinatal morbidity and mortality does increase, rather than waiting for labor to start whenever it starts. Induce for sure at 42 weeks, but actually at 41 weeks, despite what your cervix says. Different doctors, especially based on my experience, are gonna have different points of view on this. This is semi-new research, and so I am hesitant to even talk about it, but the research is actually pretty strong, so I feel like I'd be doing a disservice and lying to you if I didn't actually tell you what was up. You also have to weigh the experience. Your preferences may outweigh what you understand with the data. If you are low risk, meaning you don't have complications in your pregnancy, you don't have an epidural, you are strictly just laboring and doing your thing, letting it happen, the recommendation is to pursue and see if it's an option, intermittent auscultation, which you can learn about in my medical interventions class. Instead of continuous monitoring, where they put these like monitors on your belly that watch the baby's heart rate at all times, that instead you would listen to the heart rate of the baby during the contraction through the end every about 30 minutes. Now, different hospitals have different protocols for that. Flex and flow, moral of the story, it's not continuous, it's intermittent, where they're listening to the heart rate of the baby, and that does show that it has the same outcomes. The more I'm talking, the more I'm like, oh, I can hear the opinions of all sorts of professionals. Just telling you what it says, okay? Just relaying the information. Once you're in labor, we are also finding that labor takes way longer than we thought it did. And so, one of my tools for you is when you're in the moment, if the conversation for a C-section comes up, the question is, can I continue waiting? Is baby okay? And if baby is okay, what are the other risks? What happens if I wait? Can we keep waiting is my tool for you. Ask for more time for your labor. This one gets a little bit complicated and I don't want to overwhelm you with information. If you are admitted to the hospital before 6 centimeters, that is considered latent phase or early labor. Until you hit 6 centimeters, we don't really care how long it takes. So if somebody is trying to tell you need a C-section before you've hit 6 centimeters and there isn't any other indication, per ACOG, a C-section shouldn't be called before 6 centimeters. You gotta get to 6 centimeters before we can start talking about time frame of no cervical change or your body not dilating. You are not 6 centimeters and they're recommending a C-section, give some pushback and say, look, my understanding is that before 6 centimeters, I'm not in active labor, so we can't really call a C-section yet. Ask those questions. You may have to advocate for yourself, ladies, but in the long run, sometimes you give it a couple extra hours and all of a sudden you're 6 centimeters and then your body's like, ooh, I wanna have a baby now. And then next thing you know, you're 10 centimeters and pushing your baby out, and guess what? All you needed was more time. When we get to pushing, what the data shows is that for a first-time mom, if you push more than 3 hours, if it takes you longer than 3 hours to push the baby out, chances are only 1 in 4 women will deliver vaginally. So that's only like 25% chance of an actual vaginal birth. Now you can probably keep pushing so long as baby looks good, your doctor says it's still safe, but just know that within that first 3 hours, the pushing in 3 hours seems like a really long time, I understand. Use that as motivation, ladies, that when you are pushing, you are really going for it, that you are not holding back, that you're not like, oh, I wanna wait and let me see. Finding the strength in you and using that as motivation to get your baby out within 3 hours. If you can get your baby out within 3 hours, first time mamas, you have a higher chance of a vaginal birth. Now, second, third, fourth time mamas, what we call multips or multiparous women, you have 1 in 3 chance past 2 hours of pushing. So your goal is that you can get the baby out within 2 hours and then you're kind of in the clear. Use that as motivation. Now, does that mean that if you hit the 3 hour mark or the 2 hour mark that you can't get your baby out? Not at all. Just know that statistically speaking, if you don't get the baby out within 2 or 3 hours, 2 if you've had babies before, 3 hours if you haven't, then the chances of your vaginal birth go down significantly. So use that as ammo for pushing your baby out. I have to disclaim that number 9 is one of my pet peeves kind of in the birth world. I feel like I hear way too much women being told that their babies are big. And I saw a lot of times in the hospital women coming in for planned C-sections because their baby is big. You cannot call a C-section for a big baby unless the estimated fetal weight is 5,000 grams or 5 kilograms, which, let me just add that one up, hold on. Or 11 pounds for you women who do not have gestational diabetes. Now, if you have gestational diabetes, the recommendation for estimated fetal weight is 4,500 grams, which is 9, almost 10 pounds. So we're talking you have to have a massive estimated fetal weight or massively sized baby in order to really call a C-section and plan a C-section based on the weight of the baby. The only way to know if your baby fits is by trying. If you're faced with this situation, go to your doctor and say, talk to me about why you think it's risky. And then you can say, my understanding is the recommendation is to pursue a vaginal birth unless the estimated fetal weight is 5,000 grams or 5 kilograms or 4,500 grams for gestational diabetes. If your baby is not that big and your doctor is telling you need a C-section, give some pushback, make that educated choice, and know that that really is not an indication for a C-section. The other piece of this is where diet and exercise, diet meaning like not dieting and not eating enough, but eating healthy calories and not too much, can contribute to having a smaller baby, or like if you eat too much, you can have a bigger baby. And so the goal is to not have this massive baby. First of all, to avoid a C-section, but second of all, to avoid your vagina stretching as big as a 10-pound baby. And mind you, the biggest baby I've ever seen is like 12.5 pounds delivered vaginally, so it can happen. You want your baby to be on the smaller side for the sake of it having a better chance of fitting through your pelvis. Now, your bonus ones have to do with malpresentation, like your baby being breech, and then multiple gestation is another reason for people having a C-section. We know that breech babies, meaning your baby is butt down, not head down, that is one of the major indications that is causing women to have a C-section. And we're losing the art of delivering breech babies vaginally. Now, it is more risky. I'll get to that when I talk about it in a video. If your baby is breech, the recommendation per ACOG is to pursue what we call an external cephalic version, which is where they maneuver your belly and kind of push and pull on your belly to help flip the baby from the outside. And so if your baby's breech, I encourage you to ask your doctor about if that's an option. Is that something that they do? You want somebody skilled in it. And if they don't do it, ask, is there someone who could? A lot of times is successful and may lead to you being able to have a vaginal delivery. Second bonus has to do with twins. Asking your provider if they deliver vaginal breech twins. Most providers are gonna say that the first baby head has to be down, the second baby might be able to be breech or butt down. Pursue a provider that will deliver vaginal breech babies. The last one I have for you guys is to trust in your body. How many times have you heard me say this? Your body is capable of so much. It needs time, it needs nurturing and support and education, decreasing your fear. The more you can release, not be tense, surrender to the process, trust in your body and in your baby and in your provider and in your partner and everybody along the way, the more you're able to let loose and the more your cervix has a higher chance of dilating. You have to be able to let go. When you hold on so tightly, your cervix ends up holding on really tightly to that baby as well. Let go, trust in your body, ask those questions, speak up for yourself, give some pushback if you're feeling like there's any kind of pushiness going on. I'm giving you the information for you to be able to take to your care provider, have an intelligent conversation, and really pursue what's best and what's safest for you based on your specific pregnancy. I feel like that one could be a little bit controversial, and I care, but I kind of don't care. I will link this article in the description box below. You can find all my links in the description box below. These are little things that stacked up together may really help to decrease your risk for a C-section. The goal would be that we don't leave any stone unturned, meaning that we've done everything within our power to get you that vaginal birth. And ultimately, sometimes everything doesn't align, and that's okay. If you need a C-section, you can feel confident that first of all, it's your decision, and second of all, that you really did everything possible to have that vaginal birth. If you want more, I have childbirth classes online, a coping with labor class online, and I will say that coping with labor class helps with movement and waiting and feeling confident in your body. That's gonna help assist you to wait at home and kind of have some strategy for labor and birth. It also may contribute to the whole continuous labor support thing, where having a doula, if you can't afford a doula, but say you have a really supportive sister or your partner's super engaged and excited to help you, or your mom wants to be there, take the coping with labor class with them and it will train them to have some extra skill and knowledge to be able to support you in labor. Coping with labor is online, but make sure you follow me on Instagram. The other fun announcement I have is I am teaching Bundle Birth, which is my company, group childbirth classes here in LA. So if you are in Los Angeles, you can meet me, you can take those childbirth classes with me. I will link that down below. You can go to Childbirth Prep LA, check out the schedule of events. I'm teaching a VBAC class in person. I have my full childbirth class there. I have a baby care class. I have one-on-one birth consultations you can do with me. So I want to meet you, which is super fun because I feel like I'm talking to myself all day, every day when I make these videos. So come meet me at a childbirth class. We are also offering all sorts of breastfeeding classes there and postpartum related classes. So send it to your pregnant mamas in LA. I look forward to meeting you, hopefully soon. That is a lot of information. Everything you can find in the description box down below. Until next time, don't forget to flex and flow, and I will see you soon. Bye. Joe, what's up? Oh boy. Do your work. Get to it. Number 3 is the thing shaking. Just let me check myself out here for a second. This is a labor of love. Yes. Good enough. Don't care. I always make a weird face after let's get started. Let's get started. Or what do they call them? A GIF? A GIF. Bring some circulation to my face. all about C-sections. Not everything though. Since it's so late at night, there's going to be lots of you. It's 12:15! Okay. Why do we want to avoid a C-section? Because we don't like C-section. What am I doing? I am delirious. I'm growing a double chin.